Welcome to the Podium Proof F1 podcast. I'm Frank Alessi.
And I'm David Alessi.
We're home from the U.S. Grand Prix at COTA. Red Bull claimed the Constructors' title with the Max victory in an incredible race. Lewis nearly took Mercedes' first win of the season, and Charles rounded out the podium after starting in P12. Let's get it.
Yo,
What is up?
we are back from COTA. And let me tell you something. Do we have a lot to talk about? But first and foremost, we are doing our first podcast together in the same place next to each other. So, look, to be honest with you, this is a little bit different for us. We're going to try to make this as seamless as possible. And even though we both feel kind of off balance, out of our normal routines.
Definitely out of our element here.
But, man, I think we got it set up. I think we got it licked. We're going to roll with it and hope that it's the best one yet. So we got a whole bunch to go over. We got a couple of extra goodies here.
Jesus.
We're actually set up.
Did I miss the middle of that?
Oh, yeah, you did. We're actually set up outside here. Even got us a couple of stogies to enjoy. As I am down here in Baton Rouge with Frank at his house.
Set up on my back patio porch area here. So we're going to have us a good little time, figuring this out. First time doing this in person together. And hopefully everything comes out okay. So I figured what better time to break out a special bottle, a little bottle of Weller 12 I've been having stored up here for a little bit that hadn't opened. So
yes, sir.
There's no cork pop because it's a screw top.
And we got us a couple of Lido Gomez cigars. We got a few different ones. Look, neither of us are real big cigar buffs. I mean, we enjoy a good cigar.
We like smoking them. We don't know a ton about them.
Yeah, so I don't really know what to elaborate on, about this one.
Other than we'll tell you this is good.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
This is not good.
So we'll roll with that here. Enjoy us a little bit of Weller 12.
And we got some other Wellers out here we might jump into because we're not going to destroy that bottle of 12.
No, that we will not.
But for those that don't know, Weller 12 is appropriately named because it's 12 years old. It is 90 proof, 45% alcohol. And the Weller line is, I haven't backed this up or not, but they say they are the original wheated bourbon. I wonder if Maker's Mark has anything to say about that, but
right.
Interesting. And they're really good. They're delicious. They are incredibly hard to find. And, it's the funny thing about them is they were made to be essentially a lower end brand of Pappy's.
Yeah.
And once people started figuring that out and how good they were, they just disappeared from shelves, much like everything else in our bourbon world that's good.
Yeah. I mean, hell, for me up in Virginia, trying to find a Weller, hell, I'd be better off going panning for gold. Like, it's just not going to happen. Anytime, it's a rare occasion that, we get a shipment of like some antique 107 or even some special reserve. And I haven't seen it come out in any of like the recent drops since they've changed the whole way they do it. But the way they did it before, people knew what was coming, when it was coming. And dude, they'd be lined up at 5 o'clock in the morning when the stores don't open till 12. And for those of us that have a normal full-time job, like that was just wasn't going to happen. So never got my hands on one, but I've had a couple of them. I've had the special reserve and the 107 here. really excited to try this 12. That should be good.
And your brother was kind enough to give you one of his special reserves.
Indeed.
So shout out to your brother. He's awesome.
Shout out. There you go. All right. Stogies are fired up. Bourbon's poured. What'd you say? Get into this?
Let's do it, man. What a week. So we took off. God damn, that thing's hot. We took off on last Thursday, headed out to Austin, and I guess we'll just start with a little bit about the trip.
Yeah.
Pretty much we're there for every minute of it.
Yeah. I mean, if there was
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
If there was racing happening, F1 or not, we were there.
And it was an absolutely incredible experience.
Look, let me tell you something. Aside from like the F1 aside, the track, the venue was absolutely phenomenal. COTA is incredible. And personally, I can't wait to plan me a trip, maybe in a couple of years, who knows, to get down there and drive that track myself. But the track itself, the whole facility was incredible. Add in like the whole F1 experience on top of that, and man, it just got freaking better. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely incredible. It was an incredible week. Everything done over there was first class, man.
Oh, yeah.
All the facilities, all of the just everything they had going on. There was almost constant action on the track itself.
Oh, well, looks like we lost that. So yeah. All right. Well, we did have that behind us, but looks like this isn't wanting to stay there. So is what it is. We tried.
Yep.
So for those that are listening to this on the podcast, as usual, we will post a link of the live stream, or not live stream, I'm sorry. The video. There we go. The video on YouTube. Link will be in the description. We had a nice little display behind us just now, since if you're on the podcast, you can't see that. But TV is not wanting to work. Well, it's going to sleep and whatnot, whatever. We lost it. It's gone. So if you're catching this on YouTube, do us a favor, like and subscribe, comment, reach out to us on both the podcast and the YouTube. There
Social
will
media.
be a link to our link tree that'll take you to our social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. On the YouTube video, there is a QR code there, and that will take you to our link tree as well. So click the link, scan that QR code. Either way, give us a like and subscribe, and follow us on social media. Drop us a line. Let us know what you think. If y'all were at COTA, reach out, hit us up, let us know what you thought. Where were you? Where were you sitting? We'll get into that here in a second, where we were.
Twan, what's up? It was great to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think our original, when we were doing the live stream, our first interactive fan with us that stuck with us with every live stream we did, and has continued to follow us. Twan Wynn, we appreciate you, man. It was great to meet you. Hope you enjoyed being there as much as we did.
So qualifying. Let's get into the real F1. So we sat in turn 1 on Friday for practices. Turn 6, which is looking back through the S's, on Saturday and Sunday. And for one, the hill climb
Oh my god!
on the turn one is staggering. TV does not do
Yeah.
it justice.
Better put your hiking shoes on.
Yeah. Number two, the
Oh my god!
change of direction
This is good.
ability of these cars. Again, something that TV does not do justice. It will blow your mind.
It's freaking staggering, man. Watching them. So at turn 6, you look down track and you're able to see from 3 up to you at 6 and then through 7.
And it's really kind of awesome the way it just looks straight down the center apex of each side of the S's.
And just watching them come through from 3 all the way through 6, the rate at which these cars change direction is just incredible. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. You know, but dude, what was really crazy to me was looking at, like, just take turn 6, right? You can see the rubber. You can see the racing line. And that racing line is where you're going to carry the most speed with the max amount of grip, minimizing the distance. All 3 of those, you know, if you plot them out on a graph where all 3 of those connect, right? Like, that's going to be the optimal. And then the F1 cars are like a full car width on the inside of that the whole time, like, which just demonstrates the level of grip they have with how much faster they're coming through there and the insane level of grip they have to where they can shorten the distance through that turn that much more. Like, if you think of, like, the radius that they took versus that outer loop, the amount of distance that they cut off at such a much higher rate of speed, like, it's freaking incredible.
I mean, what they say? They were 15 seconds quicker a lap than the prototype cars that we saw earlier.
I never heard a number.
Well, anyway, they put some of the support races that they have. They didn't have an F3 or F2 or anything this weekend there, but they had an endurance, a variety of endurance categories there that ran. I don't know. I guess it's all retired cars.
Yeah, so they had the Masters Endurance Legends, which ranged everything from, like, think IMSA cars. It was basically that. It was everything from, like,
the stuff you see at Le Mans, Daytona 24, and all that.
The Konica Minolta DPI. They had some LMP2s. They had some GTLM cars. They had a bunch of GT3s and a bunch of Porsche Cup cars. You know, varying in age. And
all of them relatively new.
Yeah. Nothing was, like, old. It wasn't anything historic. It was all, you know, from like 2 years old to, I don't know, maybe 5
or 6.
5, 6. Like, I don't know the realm of, like, those Porsche Cup cars. You know, it was, I'm gonna call it like the 991 Cup car for any Porsche guys out there that know what I mean by that. And I could be dead wrong on that, but that's what I think they might have been. So not terribly old, you know. We're on the 992, some variation of that now. But, and then there was a couple that were, you know, like an older C5 Corvette that looked like it. That wasn't like GT trim. That looked more of like a GT2 trim almost.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That don't mean shit to me. I don't follow that close enough. But nonetheless, it was a bunch of super high level cars that were running the same track just before you get to put your eyes on the F1 cars doing the same thing. And
That ass just fell right on me.
on my computer. He's gonna kill you.
Nah, it'll be all right.
It puts just massively into perspective how incredible these F1 cars are, because you're talking about a group of cars that is essentially the highest level of what they do in those IMSA cars.
Yeah.
And the F1 cars just make them look like
They make them look
toys.
Like, yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just staggering, man. It was so impressive.
It really is.
And we've been to 2 other races. It hadn't been for quite a while, but there's things that COTA has that the other 2 tracks that we went to didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And both of the other tracks were in relatively low speed areas.
Yeah.
Great for overtaking and watching that, but nothing like seeing the performance of the braking ability in turn 1, and then their ability to be on freaking rails through those S's.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and just to kind of reference, what we were talking about with where we've sat before. We sat in Montreal. We sat at the hairpin.
That's probably the only one you need a reference.
And then, Indianapolis, we were at turn 10.
It's like, yeah.
Which you come off the back straight, and there's a 90, then there's a long hairpin, and then a switchback hairpin. So, like, slow speed stuff. To see them rolling through these S's like that was just phenomenal.
And one of the coolest things was when, we sat there, we watched FP3, and it was awesome, and we were blown away. And then you went into quali, and
them boys turned it up.
I mean, turned up. But even one of the craziest things was in FP3, nobody really touched the curb on the inside, the back side of the curb on the inside of 6. And as soon as Q3 started, every one of them was on it.
Yeah.
And then
cutting every millimeter they can off that track distance.
And, one of the coolest things was the difference that you saw, because aside from the top 6 drivers, top 3 teams, everybody else was pretty much on the limit the whole time.
Yeah.
In Q1 and Q2.
Yep.
But going into Q3, we realized the Ferraris, the Red Bulls, and the Mercedes were not on the limit.
No.
In Q1 and Q2.
They were absolutely not.
Because the first time, I believe Max was the first one of them to come through in Q3. It was just noticeably different, more aggressive, and intensely faster.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Like, just not looking at times or anything like that, just visibly.
Mm-hmm.
It was tremendously more on the limit. And, dude, one thing that was really impressive was just to be able to witness, like, the various drivers and just watching them from the same spot over and over and over again, and seeing really being able to tell, like, who was better where
and how consistent the top ones were.
Right. Like, dude, you take Max and Charles, and although up until Carlos set the world on fire with that pole lap, like, them two were the top 2.
But
like, Carlos was right there the whole time.
But he was the best through them all week.
Right. Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like they were the fastest up
Mhm.
until Carlos's last lap of Q3, but you watch them through there, and they would occasionally have like a wiggle, or you'd see the car shuffle a little bit. But dude, like Carlos was just smooth as butter through there. Like never a wiggle, never stepped out. Like it was just impressive.
Him and
Every single
Lewis,
time.
looked to the eye
Yeah.
the best through there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But I still think now on that one quality lap, I think Carlos probably just sailed through there.
Yeah.
But Charles and Max just absolutely looked on the limit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and then dude, on Charles's last lap in Q3,
He bobbled in there.
Well, he did, but dude,
Oh, yeah.
you could tell like the second he entered those S's in turn 3,
He slammed it
you
in
could
there.
tell, dude.
He sent it.
Came rolling. Like he went full send. Like this is either gonna set the world on fire or I'm not gonna get it. Like it's gonna be like it's gonna be the lap of a lifetime, or it's not gonna I'm gonna screw up.
If you ain't first, you last.
Yeah, like that's exactly what that was. Like, dude, he came in through turn 3 so hard. When he came off the curbing of 3, changing direction into 4, the car bottomed out and threw sparks.
Like a shower of sparks.
Yeah. And
we noticed it from turn 6.
Right. Not at any point throughout the weekend did anybody send it that hard through there to bottom out.
Mm-hmm.
He came ripping, but you could see like the car was unstable. Like it was.
And yet he was only how many hundredths back in quality? 2?
Yeah. Hang on. He was Q3. No, he was like 700.
Oh.
Okay. But still, I mean, you could tell the car wasn't happy because like he was just
he slammed it in there.
Full send.
He slammed it in there.
It was sliding a lot and still like he was only down 700ths.
Yeah.
Like man.
And he had that big
he had a bobble out
of 20 for sure.
Yeah.
Getting on the power.
Yeah.
And I think he had one more in there.
I think he might have had one out of like 15 maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. I mean, look, like.
But that just shows you right there his ability to put an insanely fast lap together, because he was 700ths off pole.
Yeah.
And had what we saw 3 mistakes.
Right.
On the lap.
Which means all the rest of those.
And I know Max had a mistake in the S's as well.
Yeah.
On that lap.
Mm-hmm. But dude,
I don't know where else.
That just goes to show you, like, the mistakes we saw, those mistakes I know cost a little bit of time. So that means all the other turns where he was just sending it and it worked, like how much time he made up from doing that, like just, oh my God, man. If he could have put that lap together, holy crap, dude.
But qualifying was awesome to watch. That was just because, man, and I mean, you can even tell on the TV, but
yeah,
that's where you really see the level of these cars.
Right.
I mean, it's insane. So let's get into this race.
Yeah, good.
Right out the gate, initially we thought maybe Carlos had a bad start. In rewatching the race, I don't think he had that bad of a start.
No, he didn't. He absolutely did not. Looking at the rest of the field in comparison.
Yeah, he just had a decent start.
Max
was a rocket.
Yeah.
Max looked like he was shot out of a cannon.
Yeah. Max just got off incredibly well. And I didn't see, did Max just have that much better of a reaction time? Or
I don't know,
I never
but
saw the numbers.
It looks like that side of the track, a lot more people got the better starts. The even side of the track, because Charles had a great start, Max had a great start, George had a great start.
Yeah.
Everybody on that side of the track was pulling.
You're right. Yeah.
And
which is kind of odd for being on the dirty side.
But
I mean, it worked. You know? Although and that's one thing we didn't mention about the weekend and the track and just the place in general. Maybe, yeah, dude, I bet you that quote unquote dirty side of the track is probably not dirty because of the freaking wind that's there. And the way the wind was blowing all weekend, it's like blowing down the straight.
Yeah.
So I bet you that part of the track, it's really not dirty. I mean, it may not have the rubber, but you're not really putting rubber down, just blasting down the straight.
Right.
So,
it's just staying clean.
Right. So, like, I bet you
that wind was insane all weekend.
I bet you that plays a role in the why it wasn't bad for them on that side. Because typically, you know, you get less traction there being on the dirty side, being offline.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the wind was crazy. I couldn't believe that. And I mean, Max was complaining a lot about it. How it was upsetting the cars.
Look, man, and you know, I know watching the race again, a lot of the drivers kept mentioning it. It was no joke, and it was relentless.
Yeah,
it was nonstop, and I mean, even at night over there, it didn't stop.
Yep, didn't lay down a bit.
I mean, it'd be midnight, and that wind's still whipping 20 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did not expect that. That really kind of threw me off.
So, anyway, on the start, Carlos really just got a mediocre start, decent start, but Max just took the position, and Carlos looked to actually set himself up well to make a run at Max coming out of that turn.
He did because he popped back over to the right, to get a much better line through one, because he had the room, like he had the distance between him and
the
Lewis
Mercedes.
and George, to where he could shoot back right and get a clean line and get the good exit, which he did. He had that exit.
He was hooked. He hooked up the traction early.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, George, with that great start, I think saw a lot more of an opportunity than was really there.
Yeah.
And I mean, just sent it in the turn one, wound up locking it up.
Yeah.
He was late on the brakes, but more than that, he had an awkward angle into the turn. He was never going to make that corner.
He wasn't. He wasn't.
And that's what everybody says, oh, Carlos cut across. I'll tell you right now, with that angle, if he doesn't hit Carlos, if Carlos happened to be a millisecond ahead of where he was, he's raking across the front of Lewis's car.
Yeah, he wasn't making it. Point blank, wasn't going to make it. And like, dude,
he wound up locking it up, had a big lockup.
It wasn't huge. That was most of that smoke was behind from.
It was. They had Albon locked it up as well.
He did have a lockup. I think he locked the left front. It wasn't huge, but it was enough to.
It was a solid lockup.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
didn't.
But dude, that's one of the things. Like with those hairpins at COTA,
they're not real hairpins. They're
it is, but it's so deceiving because right at like the brake zone, the way track left, and I think it's on every one of them because 11 is a left, 1's a left, 11's a left, 12's a left, and then you've got 15's a left. And the way they open up, like the track right, the track edge stays the same.
Yeah.
But track left, at a certain point, pretty much like at the brake zone, the track surface darts left and it just opens up. And it kind of gives you like this false sense of having extra room to go there, but it really screws you if you end up going there.
It just pinches you out.
It does. And like that's kind of where he found
I didn't mean not real hairpins, unconventional, not non-traditional. It's not a traditional hairpin where it's like this longer radius loop.
Yeah. You think like hairpin like Montreal.
Yeah.
You know,
or
like,
Monaco.
Yeah. It's a very pointy, it's very different. It's a very very technical track as a whole, and there's so many different elements to it and such a variety. But like the way those hairpins are designed, man, it's really deceiving, is what it is, and it leads you to think that there's more room, but you end up screwing yourself, and that's kind of what happened to George. I feel like he got in really early. He turned in real early with carrying a little too much speed, with the lockup, probably a little bit of understeer, and he was going to push wide no matter who was there. You know, it just was unfortunate that he caught Carlos's side pod, ended up damaging his radiator, and race over for the pole sitter.
Yep, lasted about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a shame to see, because come to find out, Ferrari seemed to have improved some of their degradation issues.
They did. Absolutely did.
Not there completely.
No.
But much improved.
Much better.
You know, this being the first dry race since they brought all these upgrades.
Yep.
This is really the first chance we've had to see
because they
what they look like.
They did a floor upgrade and a wing upgrade, right?
Front and rear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Singapore.
Yeah. Yep. And Singapore was wet, as was man, I'm losing the whole schedule in my head, but Suzuka, yeah. Yep. So like it definitely allowed them. I mean, we saw it over the long haul. It definitely allowed them to stay more competitive. Like they've still got some work to do, but it appeared to be massive progress. You know. So kudos to them on kind of fixing that issue, because we've pretty much seen that since summer break.
Yep.
You know, that they've really suffered with the tire deg. So, you know, they had the pace, and they weren't compromised as much by the tire deg.
Charles ran a great first stint and actually allowed him to make up quite a bit of time. And really, you know, kind of not negate where he started, but put him back into the real contention for the podium.
Yep.
Because he was able to run so long on those mediums.
Yeah. Yeah.
And COTA's a circuit that is not easy on tires. So that it was really impressive, and put him in a spot to be out there and take advantage of that safety car when everybody else had already pitted.
Yep.
And still maintaining a good pace.
He was.
Because he was in between Max and Lewis. And, you know, they were quicker than him, but with brand new tires, they were not just taking chunks of time.
Right.
You know, like it took Hamilton a while to claw back a second.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, if they could keep that progress up, I mean, that's been their one deficiency.
Yeah.
As of late, that's really just wrecked the back half of their season. You know, strategy stuff aside, that was the first half problems.
Right.
They've been pretty solid on that.
Yeah,
but
they have not made
one thing
the bonehead calls that they previously were. That has cost them to be in the position that they are. So improvement, you know, progress. There's still room for more, but progress is being made.
Didn't mention. Apologies. Red Bull is your constructors.
Oh, yeah.
Champion.
Red Bull locked up the constructors title this
double
weekend.
Championships for Red Bull.
Yep.
I mean, it's no surprise.
Well deserved.
It was inevitable.
You know.
And we're going to leave out any more discussion of this on this episode of whatever's going on because we really don't know anything else.
Yeah. Whatever's
There's
transpiring with the cost cap stuff.
An agreement's supposedly been reached, but the announcement was postponed.
Yeah.
That's all we know. And
yeah, there's really no new news since we last talked about it. So, yeah, we'll kind of just defer all that talk to the next episode when maybe we have more info to actually go over.
And extremely sad news out of Red Bull. Their co-owner and really the mind behind the whole operation to get it started and to make the big push into F1, Dietrich Mateschitz, passed away. Mateschitz.
Yeah.
Passed away, believes sometime Saturday morning, maybe Friday night.
October 22nd. So that was
maybe that was Saturday.
I don't know what day is which right now, to be honest with you.
That was Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't know what time. Just because they were over there.
I do know it was before qualifying.
Right. We found out the word got there before qualifying.
Yeah.
But
Yep. So yeah. Big loss to the team. Fantastic businessman. And learned a couple things that I didn't know about him. Like with the Australian GP getting back on the calendar. Austrian. I'm sorry. Austrian. Yeah. Like he buying that circuit and all that, like that was all him, which I guess we probably could have figured that out.
The Red Bull ring
and all, but didn't know that he had purchased that and got it. He's the one that got it back up to safety standards and all that. Like that was all his doing. He was just a huge motorsports guy and just really, really had a love and passion for racing and for motorsports.
When, the team, what was it, 05, 06? 05 or 06 was whenever they took over Jaguar. But Red Bull had been a part of F1 for quite a while before that in terms of major sponsors of certain teams.
Yep.
They were a part of the Sauber team for quite a while.
Yes.
That was some pretty cool liveries back then.
Yeah, it was.
With the Petronas was actually their big sponsor back then.
Yep.
So it's kind of ironic. It was a Petronas Red Bull base livery.
Exactly.
I just thought about it. I just made that connection.
I know, right? So it was 2004.
When they bought it. When's the first year they ran it? Because they weren't Red Bull in 2004. There was not a Red Bull team.
No, Mateschitz he founded the energy drink company in 84. He bought the Jaguar F team 20 years later and renamed it Red Bull Racing the following season.
Right.
So 2005.
All right.
Yeah. I was just confirming. And then AlphaTauri.
I want one of those Cuba Cubas.
Yeah, I know, right? Those are so good. Which at that time was Toro Rosso, took over Minardi.
Yeah.
And that was...
How many years later?
That's, of course, all under that Red Bull umbrella as well. Let's see.
How good is that Weller 12?
Oh, my God, dude. It's incredible. Let's see. When did Minardi become Toro Rosso?
Let's get back into the race here. Because it was an incredible race.
2006.
Yeah. It was an incredible race.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like once Carlos was out, Max just started to not not streak away, but just kind of slowly but steadily inch away from Lewis. And we kind of looked like that would just keep building and building throughout the course of the race, and he was going to run away with it.
Yeah.
Until we got a safety car, and from Bottas lost the rear, spun it out.
Yep, got beached
in the gravel throughout the safety car, which is where Charles was able to take advantage.
Yep.
And one other thing about Charles, real quick, is how great of a start he had.
Mm-hmm.
He probably made up four places, 5 places.
It would have been. He got pinched.
And then when he came around turn 1, he took the inside, and Carlos was right there. After getting spun out, he had to kind of bail out.
I think he was a little bit more outside. I think he was like a car width off.
Yeah, but he took the inside, and then he got squeezed by Carlos.
Yeah.
Had to kind of get out of the power, and just got sucked up and lost everything he gained.
He had to check up.
Maybe
hard.
even more.
Yeah. He had to check up hard. One of the Haas's almost ended up in the backup.
Yeah.
That was close. But, yeah, he did have a really good start, as was kind of expected. Him to get at least a decent start and then be kind of aggressive in turn 1 and make up some spots. I think we all kind of expected that.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, one thing that's nice about that track is the amount of room that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Even compared to a lot of these new tracks.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's room everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely a big, wide track.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's
plenty of room for these big, massive cars.
Right. I mean, I guess I don't know, dude. Like in turn 1, like that, off the start, you could go 4 or 5 deep.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
But how about that Mercedes, man, of Lewis?
Mm-hmm.
Dude that looked to be his best drive of the year.
Yes.
In my opinion, that was the first time he legitimately had a chance to win the race. Now, granted, he still needed some help.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just on raw pace.
Right.
2 safety cars, an 11-second pit stop on Max.
Yep.
It wasn't like they just found it.
Right.
But, and then, look, when Max turned it on, it was a done deal. Like, it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But
still
it's a significant improvement.
Yes. A very, very solid drive from Lewis. And he looked good.
Yeah.
Weekend. We talked about that a little bit ago. But he looked good. He looked comfortable.
He looked more than comfortable. He looked dangerous. In a good way.
Yeah.
Like the car looked aggressive enough and quick enough to where he was a threat.
Yeah. I'd go with that. Yep.
And like it just looked like it was working.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was just kind of working.
100%.
Except for, I heard that he had a 40 kilometer per hour deficit when Max was passing him.
No, I think they said after that was kind of skewed because Max had DRS, but then when they looked at that or read it, like it was already they were getting into the brake zone, but Max went deep. Like
okay.
There was something about that number being skewed.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. I heard him say.
Because whenever I heard that, I was like, "That's insane."
Right. Yeah.
Like that can't be.
That was a skewed reading.
But it would. I don't know. it wouldn't surprise me after
I mean,
what we've seen this
that
year.
much.
It's a long straight.
It is a long straight. It is. I know we walked it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't like this cigar.
Really. This one's not bad. Like, it's not one of my favorites or anything, but it's not bad. It's doable.
Yeah. So, where we want to pick up? I mean, there's so much stuff that happened kind of all over the place.
I know, right?
How's about the? Let's just kind of go through some of the.
We were at the safety car from Botas.
Yeah.
Let's kind of continue on that track with what happened following that shortly thereafter. So, safety car. That's when Charles got his pit stop under the double yellow, and then I don't know however many laps it went around. They get Botas out, and then we come to the restart, and they go racing again, and we get around half a lap. We come out of turn 11 onto the back straight, and there is a massive crash. Well, I say a massive. It really wasn't actually. It was more of a phenomenal crash. We'll call it that.
Eye popping.
A lack thereof a crash from what happened, from what transpired. So Alonso was behind Stroll and got a run on him and tried to kind of fake him to the right and then quickly darted back left at about the same time that Stroll was trying to go left to cover him off. And Alonso's right front tire ended up smashing into Stroll's left rear, which sent Alonso flying through the air like a damn airplane.
You don't see those crashes a whole lot anymore.
No, you do not.
Where they go airborne. But, like I've been saying, when rubber hits rubber, that's what always has the chance to happen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like that's
and it could be the slightest nick
mm-hmm.
of rubber touching rubber.
Yep.
You just got to be going fast enough.
Yep. That's
to make you take off.
The biggest danger of open wheel.
That's what turns cars into planes.
Yep. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, and we were trying to figure out why it happened like this, because he essentially went up to a 45-degree angle, maybe a little further than that.
Yeah, maybe.
And
didn't continue
going. And it's got to be because of the weight of these cars.
I think that's got a big thing to do with it.
It's got to be. That's got to be the reason of it, because back in the day, when that happened, those cars went to flipping.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, man, Alonso went flying through the air, made a spectacular landing. I give the landing like a 9.5 out of 10.
Only because he wound up hitting the wall.
Yeah,
too.
Only because he stumbled a little bit on his landing. You know, he didn't just plant the landing. He didn't stick it.
Come back onto the track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he
had a little step.
He brushed, up against the barriers, and just freaking keeps driving.
Bro, that Alpine is a tank.
Like, just keeps driving. Now, Stroll ended up spinning.
His car looked smashed to shit.
He hit the wall, driver's right, and bounced back and spun some times, and car was destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God for Stroll. Like, it wasn't a huge impact.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were going. It was a shallow enough angle when he hit the wall, and he was spinning. Like, it kind of just hit it and kept on rolling. It wasn't like a hard impact.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, at those speeds, man, that could have been real bad.
Yeah.
But freaking, Alonso just comes into the pits. They change the wing out, slap some new tires on it, and he goes back racing. Like, holy shit, man. It's crazy that, like, with George and Carlos in turn 1, it was not a high speed. Now the angles, it was more direct of an impact, right? Like, so, I mean, there's different variables here, but for argument's sake, it was a very slow speed impact, and that destroyed Carlos's radiator and caused him to retire from the race. Alonso goes flying through the air, lands, hits the barrier, comes back on, and is able to continue and finish the race. Like it's freaking wild, man.
Yeah. Well, George might take Daniel Kvyat's name from the torpedo,
right? Jeez, yeah.
So it didn't seem like the hard tire was a very good tire. Because they all everybody pit, they all switched to hards.
Yeah, and nobody really ran the distance on them.
They didn't run much on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we were thinking, like, man, Charles might be able to make this a one stopper.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't know if he could have got away with it. I think he could have got away with it. I just don't know where that would have put him. But man, it would have been interesting.
Yeah, it really would have. Yeah, because like he pitted on lap 18.
Because he had 8 laps, I think. Maybe 5. I don't know.
He pitted on lap 18, went to the hards.
Where did Max pit?
And then pitted again on 35.
Where did Max pit?
His first one?
Yeah.
He pitted 13.
13. Okay, so he had 5 laps of younger tires, but Charles was able to come out under the safety car. So he essentially got to baby the tires in for 3 or 4 laps.
And I think it might have been 2 or 3 before the restart, then half a lap, then back to safety car for another, I don't know, 3.
That was at least
2.
3.
Yeah. Which, by the way, shout out to the marshals, because that wreck, Alonso and Stroll, Stroll's car was in the middle of the track, off to the side, but let's call it middle of the track. There was debris everywhere. Shockingly, they didn't red flag it. And dude, those marshals had that shit cleaned up in no time. Like, kudos to you guys for hustling and busting ass, because, dude, I think
the second time they came around, maybe in the first time they came around,
mm-hmm.
like the wreck happened, everybody was bunched up, so half the field went through it.
Right.
I want to say by the time they came back around, the debris was gone
for the most part.
For the big chunks,
was
gone.
And there was a couple people that had some issue from debris because of that. I believe Mick was one of
was
them.
The worst of it,
and then somebody else. I don't remember who.
We saw it,
but like that, they're look. Hindsight's 20/20, right? They probably should have red flagged it and done like a proper cleanup, not such a hurry up cleanup. But is what it is. Like, they got it cleaned up quick. Like, the marshals aren't the ones that decide red flag or not. It's race control, and them boys got on it and got it cleaned up as best they could in a very quick amount of time. So, like, good job to them.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I need to drink up. You leaving me behind.
2 ahead of you.
Right?
Jesus. Freaking rookie over here.
Man, I'm enjoying my Weller 12. When I leave here tomorrow,
you can have another pour of it.
I know, but I'm savoring this. The Weller 12's not coming with me. It's going to stay here. So I'm savoring this.
I hear you. What else do we want to jump into? I mean, we could go through the whole thing, but I kind of just want to talk about some of the awesome stuff that happened, because there was so much exciting. I'd rather spend more time talking about just the really awesome stuff that happened in this race, like Seb looking like his old self, and
he was racy, wasn't
he? Yeah, man. Driver of the day.
Yeah, he sure was.
How about Lando? All of a sudden, just finds it, and he passes.
Oh, dude, right?
5 or 6 cars And they were not all bunched together.
No.
Like, he was just running people down
Yep.
in a stretch of maybe 10 laps.
Yeah.
I think past 5 cars.
Yeah. It was one a lap.
And like
just picking them.
But like after he got Yuki was the first one in that group.
Yeah.
And then the next one, I forget who it was. I don't remember all the cars that he passed. But the next one was a couple seconds ahead. He ran him down by the next lap. Then the next one in front of him, I looked when he got past the first one, and it was 4 seconds ahead.
Mm-hmm.
He had him passed in 2 laps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude.
Lando was flying.
He freaking turned it on and was just getting it. Let's see. Let me look at the pit stops.
And then you had Mick was unfortunate because he ran a strong race. You know, we watched him lap after lap after lap, just hooked into Lando and Lance Stroll.
Yep.
And he was with him. I mean, he was on their tail.
Yeah, he was, dude. He was there.
He was not getting left behind, nothing. And he wound up getting severely compromised. He picked up a huge chunk of debris. You actually heard it on the onboard just clunk into the car.
Yep.
And
dude, who was it? I think it was Danny Rick.
Yeah.
Might have been Lando. I think it was Danny Rick.
I think it was Danny Rick.
They showed an onboard, and there was a big old piece of carbon came in.
Talking about horrible.
And like, dude, it smashed into probably like the intake of the car.
That was Lando.
That was Lando?
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
Because he just caught a shower of debris.
Yeah. And dude, like it went over his helmet, but below like the camera. So like it hit like the body work around like the intake.
Yeah.
And just freaking smashed into it. I'd like to see a picture of the car after the race and see like where that hit. I bet you it's destroyed right there. That was a big old piece that he took.
Yeah. And man, how's about the racing yet again that we've been robbed of so many times this year between freaking Max and Charles?
I mean, we got some. We definitely got some.
No, that's what I'm saying. But we've been robbed of it so many times this year.
Yeah.
What we got to see at this race.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, Max was clearly faster. But Charles finally had the tire life
to at least
get it done. And then
some of a challenge.
You know, Max gets past him and Charles just plays it beautifully.
Saw that coming a mile away, dude. He played the over-under.
Yeah.
And switched back around on him in turn one. Max went up the inside. Charles went deep, cut back on the inside of the exit, got on the outside of him at 2.
Just repassed him instantly.
Oh man, it was freaking. It was a textbook.
No, it was 12. That was 12. They did it.
No.
Yes, the first one was 12. Because Max closed down an insane distance, and that's why he didn't make it stick that time. Because he wound up coming from like 6/10 back, 7/10 back, and then went at it again the next time around at 12.
No, it was at 1 because then they came back by us, and Charles still had the position. It was in 1.
Was it?
I'm looking it up now.
Are you sure?
Uh-huh.
It might be the one time you had me, because now I'm second guessing myself. How are you gonna look it up? Turn the volume down.
Oh, that's not it.
No. What do we want to?
Here goes Max Verstappen down the inside on Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, that's turn 1.
Is it? Okay, you got me on that one.
He's got him on the exit. Oh,
That's right. You got me on that one. That's right. Didn't they jump right into the asses?
Yeah. And then I think where he ended up actually
got him
getting
at
was
12.
12.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because I remember watching it on the screen. It was like, damn it. And then you saw Charles get back on the inside, and then before you know it, they're coming at us, and Charles was still in front of him.
That's right. That's right. That's the one downside to seeing it is it's insanely hard to follow
Yeah.
what's actually happening.
Right. Being there at the race, like you're a bit starved for the info of everything else. Like, yeah, there's a TV screen usually within sight, but
It's not close enough to read anything on
right,
it.
you can't read anything, and you still just like, you know, a lot of the info that the commentators get throughout the race and all, like, you don't have that, you know. And look, there's so many people there. Like, good luck using the internet. You know, like everything's so it's so bogged down. Like, you can't really keep tabs on any live feeds or anything like that. So that's the one drawback. But dude, I will happily take that to be at a race and then just watch it on TV later to catch up on any of that stuff.
Right.
You know. But yes, that is like the one downside. If there's a downside, that's all it is. You know.
Yeah, that's about it. Man,
Yeah,
I mean,
like there was a ton of great racing happening.
Oh, and tell them about how I am Nostradamus.
All right. So let's set the scene here, right? Saturday, we're at our seats for FP3 and qualifying in turn 6. The turn 6 grandstand on the infield, the new one. And Frank over here is like, dude, like this is prime.
After we saw them go through it the first time.
Frank's like, look, this is prime scenario for Latifi at some point this weekend to come pay us a visit right here in this wall.
I think my exact words were, there is no chance Latifi doesn't send one into this barrier directly in front of us.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that was the way you put it. And I don't know, what is it, lap 4? Lap 4, man. He bobbled. I think he bobbled out of 5 or like mid-corner 5 and was just trying to regain it and then actually lost it there at 6. Spun and came sliding into the wall, freaking 30 feet from us, dude.
Yeah.
Like, look, I don't want to see anybody wreck or anything, but it was really cool to just have that happen right in front of us, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he touched the wall.
Yeah.
And then lit him up and
spun it back around, got back going.
Took off.
You know.
Which that burnt rubber smell stuck around for about 25 minutes.
And dude, it was like that was a weird burnt rubber smell.
No, that was a different smell later on, remember?
No. But there was still the burnt rubber smell from Latifi, you know, spinning around and all. Like that was not your what is your tip. Granted, these are not your typical tires.
Yeah, I would say that rubber is not the rubber that
I guess this is like the premium rubber.
Yeah.
Burning smell.
Yes.
Is what that would be.
Yes. So that was really cool. You know, he was fine. The car was fine. He continued.
Yeah. Latifi doing Latifi things.
Yeah. He was
just so happy you were there to see him and root him on. He just wanted to come see you. Yep.
I knew it. I knew he was doing it.
You called it.
I did. But the Charles and Max fight was incredible. Charles made a pass up 7 on one of the opening laps.
Mm-hmm.
That was really, really cool because he set it up kind of through 5 and 6, and in the middle of 6 swung out.
Yep.
And just shot it up the inside into 7.
Oh,
it was such a cool line, man, because nobody did that. Nobody else did did it like that.
I think Seb was the only. No, Seb did it like in 6. It was completed
Yeah.
through 6.
Seb just sent it, bro.
Yeah, he did.
Seb's was different. Charles was more strategic and kind of like Seb's was like my ass is on fire, and I'm making this happen.
Yeah.
It's the last lap.
Yep. Like I came in real good. He's in my way. I'm just going around. Lick the stamp.
Send it. But it was, man, just what a weekend. You know, the whole, that to me is the staple USGP.
Yep.
You know, it's Miami and Las Vegas. I don't know, like Miami's 1 year in.
Yeah.
Vegas, we'll see what happens next year. I'm not holding my breath because that track sucks ass.
Yeah, I don't have high hopes for it. It's going to be it's all about the spectacle. It's not about the racing. It's about the spectacle.
I hate that.
I do too.
But
look, I mean, from a business standpoint, it's
I
genius.
can care less about that. That means
I
nothing to me.
know. It's genius. But for all the rest of us, we don't care about that. We care about the racing. You know, and it's going to suck. But we'll have plenty of time to bitch about that down the road.
My point about that was if you're here in the States and you want to go to a race,
go to COTA.
Go to COTA.
Go to COTA.
Because
go buy your tickets for next year and plan it.
Aside from a couple small logistical issues that are easily fixable.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And look,
just phenomenal.
We're not going to get into what those little things were, but just to make a note about it, a lot of the people that we talked to that were there last year said it was much worse. You know, so like it's getting better every year. And look, as the number of people,
that's the thing. What I think really caught them off guard last year.
I think so. You know, like, and every year it gets more and more people, right? You can estimate what kind of attendance you're going to have, but you know, and that's really all you can base off of.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it was nothing catastrophic. It was nothing major. It's all easily remedied. And I'm sure that the track will do a fantastic job of remedying those few things because, you know, it's not like we were the only ones, right? There was a bunch of people that were just kind of mentioning it. And I'm sure it'll get back to them and they'll fix the problem and boom, done, solved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and next year will be even better than this year. This year was better than last year. And that's all you can do is, you know, is improve year over year, improve on those little things. And, you know, it'll be fine. So, yeah, I mean, outstanding freaking weekend. Just, yeah.
Green Day and Ed Sheeran played.
Yeah. Yeah, Green Day played Friday night. Ed Sheeran played Saturday night. So, like,
They do it up.
You know what we didn't talk about? We talked about the endurance cars and like the IMSA style.
The wreck.
Well, no, but we didn't talk about the other series that was running.
Yes.
So aside from the Masters Endurance Legend series that was running there was also, I think it was just called the Masters Historic Legends or something like that, which was super freaking awesome because it was F1 cars from 66 to 85.
That's what the category is.
The series is that category. There were not any cars from the 60s.
Right.
I think it was like late 70s might have been the earliest, to be honest. Not 100% on that, but I would say like late 70s is probably the oldest one. But, you know, bunch of
that was there this weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like watching them race,
That'd have
dude,
been
was-
unbelievable to see like a 66 or
Oh,
67 car
Yeah.
actually run.
Yeah. But freaking cool, man. You know, and they talk about, and I mean, we've seen the progression, right, of how big these cars are, but seeing those cars, they are freaking tiny.
And like, look, like we both personally seen these cars in person before, but we've never seen them on the track.
Right.
And that's a whole different, that gives you a whole different perspective on how big or how small these cars are.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, you walk up to it in person in a museum and you just like, oh, you know, it's like an older Formula One car.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
size wise,
Right.
and it still looks kind of sizable because it's
Mhm.
probably in like this small little corner
Right.
or in this little display
There's not really a reference
where it
for
takes up the majority of it, and you're
Yep.
like, man, it's smaller than now, but
Yeah.
But when you see these things on track,
comparatively to having watched the new cars go around.
yeah,
You know,
especially then.
Yeah.
But even before that, because we saw those cars before we ever saw the new cars.
Yeah.
And you see them going around, and on this modern track, they look like go-karts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they are tiny. And man, to be honest, like it really kind of puts into perspective, like, yes, there was less technology and less safety and all that, but just puts into perspective like why so many wrecks ended up in either major injuries or fatalities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, when you're in this little tiny car going at those speeds, the smallest wreck can be fatal. And like it really put that into perspective. Now, of course, like you can make a small car these days that's a trillion times safer than those.
Right.
But like all that aside, just looking at it from a size perspective, it kind of changes, the whole way you view it. Like it makes a lot more sense.
Right.
But God, was it cool to see those things, especially like the old Lotuses.
The sound. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
The old Lotuses were there. They had a Tyrrell.
Yep. Not the 6-wheel. Unfortunately, it was not the 6-wheel.
No. But Tyrrell had some incredible cars.
Mhm.
We could not find a lineup
Yeah.
of what cars were there.
Right.
I was really hoping one of the Brabhams would have been there.
Dude, how cool would it have been to see the
6-wheel,
the 6-wheel and the
fan car.
fan car? God, that would have been. Oh man.
But it was one of the coolest things about it though was when these things were going around. Not only the sound of these old engines and F1 cars, the smell.
Yep.
The smell that these cars put off.
Yep. They're running just old school race gas.
And it just the whole thing, the combination of the sound and the smell, it just exudes power.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The
Like,
old
dude,
Tim Allen.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I caught that whiff, because the wind was blowing 50 miles an hour in our face.
Right.
Like I just wanted to start grunting and take my shirt off.
Yep. Yeah, it was freaking cool, man. Like that's not something you get to see. Like, yeah, we've seen them in a museum or something like that, but like to see them out running, like doing what they were designed to do, not sit there and collect dust in a museum.
Yeah.
Sit, out there burning
and racing.
Gas. Racing. Yeah. And like, man, you could tell like some of the guys were a little bit more racy.
Some of the guys knew what they were doing. Some
Yeah.
of them were just out there for a drive.
But like some of these guys were a bit more racy in these old classic cars than others.
Yeah.
The
Lotuses and
dude,
some of the cars like around that group
yeah,
were getting after it.
There was one of the cars. Yeah, there was one of them, wasn't there, where the rear wing just like fell out, like
That was a Tyrrell.
It was.
That was a Tyrrell.
Yeah. And it's like, holy shit. Like, I hope it's salvageable because it's not like, it's not like you can call up Terrell and be like, hey, I need another wing for this thing.
Right.
You know?
Like
Like,
you're gonna get a.
I hope either you got some spares or you've got the capabilities of fixing that one.
You're gonna get this number is no longer in service message.
Now, I'd imagine like it's probably an aluminum wing, not to be confused with aluminium. It's a very different metallurgy structure. But it's not like it's carbon fiber, right? So like I'm sure it probably survived that being blown off much better than a wing of like today would.
You're probably right. Yeah.
I bet you they could get some JB weld and put that sucker back together.
Well, I mean, they could just make a new, because like back then it was like a single post that came up that attached the rear wing, that mounted the rear wing. Yep. You just make a new bracket.
Grab a piece of sheet metal out the truck and bend it up to make a new wing. Yep.
But no, that was freaking cool, man. Seeing all them old cars.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that we did not really go over was some of the throughout the race with some of the incidents that happened and all. There were a handful of penalties that were issued throughout the race, or not, throughout and then afterwards. So Pierre received a 10-second time penalty it was a 5-second penalty for not staying within the 10 car lengths to the car in front during the safety car. But then it ended up being a 10-second time penalty for not serving a safety car infringement penalty correctly. So there was that. Latifi received a 5-second penalty for forcing, I believe it was Mick. I know it was a Haas. I believe it was Mick forcing him off track. Mick received a 5-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. Albon received a 5-second time penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. I don't remember that. I don't know where that happened or what was going on, but I don't recall it. Just looking through all the penalties here that were issued, I actually don't remember that one. And then Alonso received a 10-second stop and go, which was converted
post-race.
Well, yeah, and then it was converted to a 30-second time penalty,
right,
for a technical infringement.
Yep.
So quite a few of them were doled out, and then not mentioned on here was George received a 5-second for causing a collision with Carlos, which he served as
why
first
is that
pit
not
stop.
mentioned on there?
I'm not sure. I don't know why that one's not on here.
Let's get into this a little bit. Let's get into these penalties. Why is it, and I would love some feedback on this, on everybody's thoughts, because it used to be when you got a penalty and, whatever it was, whether it was a drive-through, whether it was a stop-go.
And that's what it used to be.
Hold on, wait. Whether it was a drive-through, a stop-go, when the penalty was announced to your team, you had 3 laps, and you had to serve the penalty.
Yep.
And it could not be in conjunction with a pit stop.
Correct.
The mechanics were not allowed to touch the car.
Yep.
If you wanted to do a pit stop, it had to be completely separate. You had to go around and come back.
Yep.
A penalty was a penalty stop.
Yeah.
So why did it get changed? Is what I want to know. And I'd love some feedback to hear anybody else's opinion on it, as far as like if they think it's better or worse now.
Yeah.
Because personally, I think the penalty should be served by itself.
Yeah.
I don't think you should, or even still, like maybe you can allow them to do it in conjunction with a pit stop. However, it has to be within 3 laps.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you want to
it
throw
should
some
be.
tires on there, sure, that's fine. But you got 3 laps to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like for instance, the George one.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Carlos wouldn't have had to retire, you spun him around at turn 1. He went from second to last.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So how is your 5-second penalty 11 laps, 12 laps from now,
Right. Yeah.
13 laps from now,
when
whatever,
you've been able to gain an advantage on the people behind you, possibly,
and do your pit stop, your normal pit stop.
Right.
Like, how is 5 seconds
a
justifiable penalty?
A penalty is supposed to inconvenience you for wrongdoing.
Right.
Not, okay, it inconveniences you for 5 seconds at the pit stop, but that's, I mean,
in the grand
5
scheme of things,
5 seconds is 5 seconds.
But the front cars, 5 seconds a lot of times means nothing.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
it might cost you a place.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that's changed, and I don't know, like, at what point, aside from how you were required to serve your penalty, was the penalty. Like, the penalties have changed. There never used to be a 5-second penalty or whatever.
There was no time penalty.
It was a drive-through or it was a stop and go.
Right.
Or
it wasn't just a straight
if it was
time
really
penalty.
bad, it was a time penalty, but it was a stop and hold. It would be a stop in your pit box and hold for 5 seconds.
Well, yeah, that was a stop and go.
No, a stop and go is you come to a stop and then you go.
It was
but they could elaborate on the stop and go.
Yeah.
It could be a stop and go,
5
a
second,
5
10
second
second
stop and go, 10 second. Just a straight stop and go is you come in, you stop, you go. But it could be expanded upon. So, like, why was that gone away from?
I don't know.
Because
they started giving them out too much.
Yeah.
Like, they changed it and they started giving them out constantly.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go like months without having an actual penalty.
Right.
Now it's nonstop.
Yep.
But again, consistency. Like, you just don't have to. You don't have to give shit out for everything. Just give it out for the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's all we ask.
I feel like there was something that we really wanted to talk about that we talked about on the drive home today, and I can't remember what it is.
Oh, I'm sure there probably is. There was so much. There was so freaking much. I mean, just there was so much to try to download everything from the weekend onto the podcast, like everything we experienced, to be able to share that. It's like, shit, we weren't making a list all weekend long. It's like, I know there's stuff.
I'll be honest, this is the least prepared I've been for a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Because we got home at about 5:00 today.
Yep.
And from then had to rewatch the race.
Yeah, to catch up on everything.
Which we essentially did in the midst of eating dinner and hanging out with the kids and the wife and all that. So, sorry we hadn't gone totally in depth here like we typically do, but it's kind of a different style weekend for us.
Oh yeah, we got a whole different show going on this time. Being together and dude, like, this is freaking awesome. We're set up outside.
Wish you weren't flying out till like freaking noon tomorrow.
Yeah, I was trying to, but then I wouldn't have got in.
So you just get drunk,
right? Yeah, but man, I wouldn't have got back home till like 10 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to have that because I got to go to work Wednesday.
Yeah,
so I wasn't trying to get in that late. Been a long few days.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll tell you what. If I would highly encourage anybody that can to go and at least once and go experience that in person.
Oh yeah.
But if you do, you better be ready.
Yep.
For some physical output.
Oh yeah.
It's it was an intense few days.
Yep. Yep.
Because we were talking about this a good bit on the way home. Comparatively to the other races we've been to in Canada and Indy, if anybody has also been to that, it'd be an interesting comparison. This track is enormous.
Yeah. Not only is it
The whole footprint.
yeah, it's so much larger in size. It's also not flat.
No, it is not flat. It is very hilly. And it's a long walk from turn 1 to turn 11.
Yeah, it is.
Which we found out.
Yes, we did.
On the outside.
On the outside, yes.
Of the gates.
And it's not like a walk as the crow flies.
No.
It's a twisty turny away from the track, back to the track, up the hill, down the hill, through the woods, across the river, however that whole thing goes. There's no yellow brick road that just goes straight to turn 11.
No.
That was a hike.
After a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in Texas, you can't drink beer outside of the fence line for some stupid reason.
Even though we were still on private property.
Doesn't matter.
Well,
But
I mean, that was my thing. Like, I was like, well,
I'm assuming I'm one of the few that's going to have that complaint. Because in Louisiana, you can go wherever you want.
Yeah.
And there's just crack open a cold beer.
Yeah, there's no open container law.
No, but I was trying to drink a cold beer for the long ass walk back, and the
we got told otherwise.
The guy at the front gate politely told me, "Hey, bro, that thing ain't crossing this line." I'm like, "What?" And then I'm like, "Shit, we're not in Louisiana. Can't do that."
Yep.
So the walk was miserable.
Yep. Didn't have a beer to drink on the walk back.
So Max wound up winning, sealing and everything. Lewis put up a hell of a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Till the very end. I don't think any of us had Max Lewis Charles.
I don't have my notebook with me.
I could tell you nobody had Max Lewis Charles.
No, we did not. But man, that's written in my notebook at home. So we'll have to. I honestly don't remember what I picked.
I think we all picked typical.
No.
The typical thing because they waited for a while to announce any time penalties.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was, man, the racing was awesome. It was kind of refreshing in terms of, like, how many battles were going around. You had, like, these last two races have just been awesome. You had Suzuka where we had no DRS all race, and we had battle after battle after battle after battle on track. And then you had this race where you just had a whole bunch of stuff happen to make it extraordinarily exciting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one of the coolest things was after Max got past Charles was in his exhaust for, I don't know, 6 laps, 7 laps.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, dude, Max hit a switch. And the next time they came around, it was a noticeable gap.
Yep.
And I think what happened was I didn't notice a mistake. And I don't know if it was something that Max did. I don't know if it was something that Charles did, if it was just a pace difference, but Max was able to break the DRS.
Mm-hmm.
And once he did that, he just left Charles.
Yeah.
And that could have been all it was. That could have been the only reason why he walked away from Charles like he did, because
Right.
they were, I mean, right there, essentially stride for stride. Once Max got around him,
Mm-hmm.
Charles was just there.
Yeah.
Like right up his freaking tailpipe for a while.
Mm-hmm.
5-6 laps.
Yeah. Every bit of it.
And I mean, not like slow, I mean, just there, half a
Right.
second back. And as soon as Max got out of that DRS and was able to break that DRS with Charles, he just left him. But the interesting thing was, before that, they were both closing down Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And even when Max started leaving Charles was still closing down Lewis.
Yes.
So that to me showed that Ferrari's pace and tire progress was real.
Yeah. 100%.
Mm-hmm. Checo closed him down. Checo was able to close Charles down a little bit towards the end, but the gap kind of just stabilized.
Yeah.
After a while.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, man, one thing we didn't talk about was the reason that Alonso got a penalty after the race. Haas actually protested Alpine and
Checo,
Red Bull and Checo for,
and very rightfully so.
Yeah, for technical infringements, I think is the way it was like classified.
Yeah.
But basically what it was here recently, Haas has gotten the meatball flag.
K-Mag.
Yeah, K-Mag specifically.
Yeah, has gotten
the meatball flag very, very frequently. I don't remember every instance, but I know at least one of them.
Two of them.
At least
had
one
to
of
do
them
with the end
were
plate.
the end plate. Was it two of them?
Two of them.
Okay, so two of them for the end plate.
Maybe K-Mag
on the wing
needs to quit hitting people.
Yeah, right.
But
and then, Checo was driving around with a flappy end plate until it came off. And he never received.
It was a few laps too.
Yeah. And they came at K-Mag with that meatball flag pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And Checo never received it for, to make them pull a pit stop to address it like they did K-Mag. And then they protested Alpine for essentially the same topic for Alonso's mirror, his right side mirror. After his crash landing, it broke the lower mount on the mirror. So the thing was just sitting there flapping. And eventually, I forgot who he was going to pass.
It was K-Mag.
Oh, it was.
K-Mag.
That was the ironic part about it.
Yeah.
As soon as he pulled out from behind him, dude, and that gust of wind.
As soon as he came out and hit the draft and got out of the draft.
Dude, that mirror went flying.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
It was like you saw it bouncing, and it's like it was like a hammer hit it.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as he got out of the draft and hit that wall of air, that mirror went flying. And dude, it was flapping for a while. I don't know exactly who, but there was somebody, might have even been Haas or, one of their drivers, or somebody did even comment on the radio about Alonso's mirror just sitting there like flapping like crazy, and it finally broke off. So that's what the penalty was for.
Mm-hmm.
Checo they did not do anything and did not issue a post-race penalty
Which
against Red Bull, which I feel like there was more grounds to issue one to Checo because it was the exact
if
same
you talk
scenario.
about precedent,
Right. It was the exact same scenario.
yeah.
Like, if anything, they could have come back at Haas and been like, look, it was a different circumstance for these reasons with Alonso in the mirror. Whereas Checo, dude, it was same thing, different car.
Exactly the same.
Right. But nonetheless, they dismissed the protest against Red Bull for that and issued the penalty against Alonso.
That's weird.
Yeah,
That I don't really understand that. I don't get that.
I don't either.
I don't like that.
I don't either. Yep.
I don't know. Checo has gotten a lot more bullish this year in terms of his driving style.
Yeah.
Which he never used to be like.
Right. Bit more. I think it's. I'd say it's like overly aggressive at times. Like there's a level.
Like the ways,
there's a level of
who was that
aggressiveness that's Max and Charles, right? Like they're.
And even
I wouldn't even call it aggressive. I'd call it assertive. Right?
No, it's aggressive. They're both aggressive. No, Charles and Max are definitely aggressive.
You kind of tend to associate aggressive with like a bad thing or
I
contact or wrecks. Like
I don't. You could be aggressive and be clean.
You can. You absolutely
look at
can.
Charles and Max
I'm just,
specifically together.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like generally speaking, like aggressive is kind of associated as a derogatory thing, not just being assertive.
Well, we here at Podium Proof, condone aggressive driving as long as it's cleanly done.
Yeah,
and clean aggressive driving.
Like what you see when you do get a Max and Charles battle.
God, they're so freaking good.
It's aggressive
fighting together.
But dude, it's so respectful and clean and like it's freaking awesome.
Ferrari, get your shit together so we can see that all year next year.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, dude. Yeah. Speaking of Max and Charles, did we even mention? We didn't. What prompted them being able to go at it like they did was the insanely out of character pit stop for Red Bull with Max.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that.
No.
Charles passed Max in the pit lane.
Yeah.
Because Max, they had an issue with the left front wheel gun. And like they actually said that it was failing to get the wheel to torque. I guess the green light, whatever is on there, wouldn't come on. But when you watch the pit stop, he actually had issue.
It barely got it off. It was slow
off.
coming off.
It was noticeably slow coming off too. So like the issue with that wheel gun was there. And then he ended up having to switch wheel guns. It ended up being like an 11-second stop.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came out the box, Charles came out.
But the crazy thing is, like watching the race on the TV, you didn't even know Charles pitted.
Right. No, we didn't.
Nobody knew Charles pitted.
Right.
Nobody saw him.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden,
they come back around.
All of a sudden, they show Max, like they switch the view and they show Max like flying out, and you see Charles right in front of him. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Like the hell just happened. Yep. So yeah, very, very uncharacteristic mistake.
Well, it's not a mistake.
Not mistake. I'm sorry. That was the wrong choice.
Malfunction.
Just, nonetheless though, and look, I mean, if the wheel gun malfunctions, like there's nothing as far as we know.
The one thing I'll say
as far as we know, there's nothing they could have done. Maybe there's checks they can do. We don't know that.
I don't think so. I'm sure it was fine.
Right. As far as we know.
I'm sure they do checks. I'm sure it was fine.
Yeah.
And as soon as they put a load on it.
Right. It's just, one of those things that happens. It's just out of character for them.
But I'll say this.
But it's unforeseeable, unpredictable.
What was out of character, in my opinion, was how nonchalant the mechanic was with it. Like, typically, I mean, this has happened dozens and dozens of
Right.
times, hundreds of times throughout the course.
Mhm.
And usually when you see something like that happen, like it's not working, they chunk that freaking gun and snag the backup gun.
Right.
I mean, like
Quick.
with a hurry.
Right.
And he just like
maybe
he knew it didn't work. He knew it didn't light up.
And he's like looking at it.
And he's like looking at it,
Yeah.
and he just like reaches over and like pulls the other. And I think the other one was even in a bag.
It was the other, and one of the other
The-
guys
the
had to
backup
kind of
one.
slide it to him.
Like,
It wasn't even like right next.
no,
to
it wasn't even like ready to go. Like
Yeah.
he just like kind of nonchalant like grabbed it and like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, now it's good. Boom, go.
And most of the time, you would see like there was an issue with getting the wheel off with the gun. So normally at that point,
Mm-hmm.
you'd have seen him toss it and just go to the backup
For
putting
the
it on.
install, yeah,
Right, and he didn't do that. You
Right.
know, like
that'd have been the thing to do.
that whole thing was kind of out of character. You know, from what
And it
we've
might have
seen
delayed him
previously.
a second.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like an extra second might have been wound up being like a 4 seconds time.
Yeah, had he swapped guns,
Had he swapped guns.
between taking off and
Yeah.
putting on, yeah. Mm-hmm. Or even, dude, like even if he had tried to put it on with that gun and it didn't work, the normal course of action of just like throw that gun as far out as possible, reach down, the other one's right there ready to go. Maybe that adds, hell, half a freaking second as good as these guys are. Like,
Right.
dude, the whole thing was just out of character.
Yeah, I agree. That's the first thing I noticed. It was just like how, I don't know, just kind of how nonchalant. I don't know how else to put it. How nonchalant he was about it.
Mm-hmm.
He just kind of sat there looking at it.
That's the best way to put it, because that's pretty much what it was.
Like how he just sat there looking at it, like I don't know what's wrong.
Right?
Like grab the other gun and hit.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah,
What do I do?
exactly.
What do I do?
I don't know what to do with this gun.
What do I do? For those of you just listening to this, that was a Ricky Bobby reference from Talladega Nights. Go watch the YouTube video. You'll see it. It's great.
Word.
So, man, I know we keep like finding things that we're like, oh, we didn't mention this, but I'm kind of out. I know there was other stuff we didn't cover that we wanted to, but
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a one-off deal.
yeah,
We're just out here having a good time talking shit.
pretty much. Like this one, we're kind of completely just winging this one.
Yeah. I don't know what else.
I don't know, man. I got nothing.
I'll tell you what. Before we get into that, Aston Martin looked very strong
They did
this whole weekend.
They did.
And they wound up having some just absolute shit luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Didn't Sam? No. Did Sam catch? Was he that other one that caught that debris?
I don't.
What the hell happened to him that threw him back? Sam actually led the race for 2 laps.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had a phenomenal weekend
They really did.
in terms of just progress and pace.
Yeah.
Their weekend was excellent.
Yeah. I mean, he ended up finishing P7.
Right. But I feel like he also made up a good bit in the end.
Let's see. Because let's see. Was it? And yeah, I don't remember. Like, was it just the pit stop strategy that kind of
Something,
or did something actually happen? Yeah, dude. Because I mean, he didn't.
I can't remember, and I didn't write it down.
He
Something went
didn't
awry
pit
for him.
under the safety car, the second safety car after the Alonso Stroll thing. A lot of people caught their last pit stop in that. He did not. And he didn't pit until lap 41. and that was his second stop. So I guess they just, because he pitted on lap 18 and then again on, what did I say, 41?
Yeah.
So he made up a bunch in that safety car with everybody pitting, and then he didn't grab one at that point. And I think that's just kind of what shuffled him forward and then caused him to just quickly drop back a bunch, you know.
Man, I wonder why they didn't do it.
Because the only pit stops after that safety car was maybe Checo, because the safety car came out on lap 30. What was it? 30.
I don't remember.
Oh God, yeah, I don't remember. No. I had that completely backwards. I had that way off. Safety car was early. Safety car came out on lap 18 because that's when Charles pitted.
Yeah,
And then it went
23.
back in and came back out on like 22, 23, something like that. Okay. All right. So, no, I was completely screwed up on that. Looking at the pit stop, there was a ton of people pitted 33, 34, 35, which is why I instantly went to thinking that was safety car time.
That was second stop.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just the natural progression of the second stop.
The majority of people had just pitted when the safety car came out the first time.
Yeah, there was a lot that had pitted prior.
Like the majority of the front runners.
Right. Yeah, the Alpines, the Haas's, the Williams. So Charles, the Alpines, Haas's, Williams, and Seb got a safety car pit stop. Everybody else had pitted before that.
Man, I just wonder, like, how Ferrari would have played Carlos had he not got punted by George. Because clearly they've made strides and they had real pace.
Mm-hmm.
So if they could have made, if Carlos would have been there the whole time, man, like, if he'd had, and he's typically better on his tires than Charles, or easier on his tires than Charles.
Yeah.
And Charles made those first mediums go deep.
Yep.
So let's say Max got by him. Let's say Carlos, even if he would have repassed him and Max repassed him again, and Max starts getting away from him a little bit. Let's say if they pull the overcut.
Yeah.
And gets in and winds up having that safety car. Like, who knows what could have happened?
Right.
Like, if he gets in the safety car window.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I would have loved to see how that played out, man.
Yeah.
Because just one car sample size ain't enough.
Nope. But hopefully we get to see that in Mexico, which is this coming weekend. We've got back-to-backs. Go from Texas down to Mexico.
Good string. They come in quick and fast.
Yeah. Yep. Because we go Mexico, and then we do have a 2-week break from Mexico to Brazil.
Why?
I don't know.
Like, why wouldn't they put the break in between Brazil and Abu Dhabi?
Yeah. Yeah, because then Brazil and Abu Dhabi are back-to-back.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they put a break in between there?
That doesn't make sense.
That's stupid.
Because Mexico is next weekend, and then Brazil is November 13th.
Stupid.
Yeah.
So dumb.
Do better.
You are so dumb. For real.
Like, for real.
For real. We done got your fingerprints.
Oh, we gonna find you. Yeah, I haven't caught a reference from that in a while. Hide your kids. Hide your. Oh, that was a funny one. All right.
Snatching your people up.
All
right,
man.
so
what else? What else you got?
that's it, bro. Wrap this bitch.
All right. Finish it out with a quote. All right. The quote of the weekend is
Yeah.
Checo, Checo, Checo. Look, man, the amount of and that quote is by the enormous amount of Checo fans that were there. Like, dude, the support for that guy.
He had more support than anybody. By far,
dude.
Not even close.
Like, and look, it's very close to his home Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, naturally. But dude, the amount of support for that guy, like, man, there was a dude behind us in the grandstand that had I don't know, it was like a
freaking 4 foot wide.
Like 3 foot by 3 foot, 4 foot by 4 foot.
If we'd have been behind him, it'd have been a problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like freaking printout, like 3 foot by 3 foot easily, sign, printed out picture of Checo, like on a
close up of his face.
Yeah, like on a canvas that he was just holding up.
Every single time Checo came by.
Oh yeah.
That thing would go in there.
Yep.
Every single time a Red Bull would come by, the entire not the entire grandstand.
Yeah.
I would say probably 30% of the grandstand would start screaming Checo.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the grandstand would be like, bro, that's the wrong Max. Red Bull.
Yeah. And then Checo would come by and they'd go.
Then they do it again. But
man, load of support for Checo.
Like basically the point is they were not taking a chance because they were cutting up, went around, and they were not going to take a chance. They just turn and see a Red Bull come, and they weren't going to take a chance of not yelling and supporting Checo.
Right.
Unbelievable how much support they had.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Now, and like I said, I mean, it's very close to his home Grand Prix. Kind of to be expected, right? I got to imagine, of course, you go to Monza and the friggin' Tifosi pretty much run that show.
Right.
So like that kind of, obviously, you get close to somebody's home Grand Prix. But still, man, like Checo had a ton of support there. And, I mean, he gets a lot of support pretty much everywhere. He really does. Like, dude, his fans, they will travel around, and I mean, a lot of drivers' fans will, but I feel like he might get some of the most travel, in all honesty. Like, watching all the races and kind of, you start to see, like, who the most fans follow, and of course, you get a ton of Max.
Well,
because you always see the smoke bombs.
But like,
by the way, let's comment on whatever smoke bombs.
Whatever smoke bombs are sold in the U.S. suck.
They're terrible.
Somebody ripped one off in turn one.
Yeah.
On
Friday.
On Friday, and
it was horrible.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Absolutely horrible. Like, dude, you go any of the European races. And
whoever that was, order your shit from the Netherlands next year.
Exactly. Because, dude, the Dutch apparently know how to make a freaking orange smoke bomb.
It causes a red flag.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, visibility goes to zero.
That's what they should name the company. Red Flag Smoke Bombs.
Right?
Damn it.
Shit. You just let it off on here, though. There goes our chance.
That's all right. We've had downloads in the Netherlands. I hope they listen to it and just plug us.
Yeah, right? Like, that's all we ask, man. Just give us a shout out. Yeah. All right. That's going to wrap this one, man. This has been a hell of a freaking weekend. Unforgettable. But
Can't wait till next year.
Now it's on to planning for next year. Like, look, we talked about this. Like, this was our first one here at COTA, first one in 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, this is a bit of a reconnaissance mission, right?
Yep.
Like, we learned a lot. Next year, hopefully, everything falls into place again. We'll be back, and it'll be even freaking better.
It will be. Because there will be an RV there.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to have a Podium Proof party
Hell yeah.
at COTA next year at
That's
the
right.
RV grounds.
That's what I'm saying. So, all right. As a wrap, call it done.
Wait a minute. Mexican predictions.
Checo Max Charles.
There's no way. Should we talk about that?
Yes.
That's what we talked about.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
We're gonna keep going
All
for
right.
a minute.
This isn't gonna be a
Hang
wrap
tight.
yet. Yep. Stand by. We got one more thing to dive into. So, all right. So here's the debate, right? What does Red Bull do now? So Max got the drivers' championship. Red Bull now locked up the constructors. There's two things at play still. One, Max is now tied for the most amount of wins in a season, tied with Seb Vettel and Michael Schumacher at 13. Checo is also in a very close battle with Leclerc for that number 2 spot in the Drivers' Championship. So what happens next? Does Red Bull give Checo preferential treatment in order to try to solidify his number 2 spot in the championship? Or does Red Bull keep with Max and preferential treatment in order to try to make this a freaking whirlwind of a season, locking down the Drivers' Championship? My hand's barely on it. Locking down the Drivers' Championship, being the larger contributor to the Constructors' Championship, and locking down a record for the most number of wins in the season? Or do they give it to Checo to try to solidify that? And there's a few different angles on that, right? Like, if they decide to give preferential treatment to Checo, Checo has to put himself in the position to get that. Like, he has to elevate and be on pace to where he's not holding Max up, so to speak, or like he's got to be in the
putting
position.
Max in danger from the Ferraris or a Mercedes.
Right.
And
so with all that, there's
another thing to think about. Charles has a brand new engine now.
Yeah.
For the remainder of the season.
Right. We didn't even touch on that. Charles took a grid penalty this past race.
Checo took one too, but I think he just took the ice because he only got a 5 place.
Right. Charles took a turbo.
Took a turbo as well.
Yeah, which caused him a 10.
Max hasn't.
Right.
And I think from what I've read and heard, Max is probably due for another one before the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Carlos too. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
But look up right now. What sprint races do we have? Is Brazil a sprint race again? So with that being said, David just mentioned a little bit.
Brazil.
Yeah. Is that the only one?
Yep.
Okay. Checo absolutely has to earn the preferential treatment.
Right.
It cannot, not only will not, it cannot just be given.
Yeah.
Because first of all, personally, I think that Max having 14 wins and the record is more important to them because that's what the season is going to be looked on as Max Verstappen.
Yep.
There have been plenty of 1-2s before.
Right. Well, and look, we know
in the year
we know
in F1.
the drive. Excuse me.
Whoa.
Yeah, that one hurt. That came from deep, dude. That was like a burp with a hiccup. That hurt.
Literally somebody punched you in the chest.
Yeah. God. All right. I'm back. Like, the drivers care about the drivers' championship. The teams care about the constructors, right? Like, they've already got that locked up.
But the teams also care about the record-setting
right.
drivers.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
they care about the constructors. Yes, they want their drivers to finish as best they can, of course. Like, that's just natural.
But, like, what would be remembered more?
Yeah.
Red Bull 1, 2,
Max's
and
whirlwind
or
season. Call it the Triple Crown, if you will.
yeah.
You know,
Like, would it be what would be remember more? Max winning the driver's title, Red Bull winning the constructor's title in dominant fashion, and Max winning the most races ever in a season.
Yeah.
Or Checo finishing second and Max gets stuck at 13.
in the words of, I don't remember who it might have. No, I don't remember who it was. I'm not going to try to guess. I could look it up real quick, but I'm not going to. Nobody remembers the guy that finished second except their wife and their dog.
I don't know who said that, but if you ain't first, you're last.
That was in the words of Ricky Bobby.
Yeah.
I know that one. Which, look, hey, one thing on the Ricky Bobby topic. Danny Rick was rocking a Ricky Bobby helmet, and it was freaking awesome. I loved it.
But what a terrible weekend.
A
Not weekend.
DFL for Danny Rick.
No, I think he still finished ahead of Latifi some way. Bro, look, we've done our fair share of.
He did.
Yeah. We've done our fair share of critiquing Latifi and criticizing, really just shit talking. But he is noticeably fucking slow.
Oh, dude, it's clear as day.
It is unreal how slow he is.
You even made the comment, you're like, bro, I think I could keep up that pace.
Dude, obviously
I mean,
not.
I think I could. I think I should be given the chance to show.
But
that
it's like, dude, if we're just giving out drives, like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it was so slow.
Well, they're not giving out drives.
Well, I mean, if we're just buying drives, like,
yeah.
You know. Dude, it was so bad. So bad.
It was. It really was. Like, noticeably, visibly, like, not looking at any data, just watching them go by. And then it got worse after he wrecked through there, too. You could tell he was just nervous. The whole rest of the race, he was easier through there than he was previously.
Yeah.
Like, that was
very slow.
That was
there.
noticeable.
Like handicap.
Yeah.
Slow through there.
Right. But so back to kind of what we started to come back in on. Yeah. What does Red Bull do moving forward? Where do they put their focus? I agree that I think they'll put it to Max and try to lock that record up for him. But then at that point, it's like, do they try to extend that record for him?
To make it untouchable.
Right. Like, once he gets the record, like right now he's tied for it.
Dude,
once he gets it.
I'm going to be honest. I personally think that is more important to them than than Checo having P2.
I would agree. Yes.
Like, if they, especially with the rivalry they have with Mercedes, if they could put a record over Mercedes that's out of touch for even them.
Yep.
And a record that they could not even do, that they could not even get
during their
dominance. Just melee of the field year in and year out over 8 years. I think they will absolutely do it to prove that Max is better than Lewis.
Yeah.
From their aspect.
Yep.
From their point. I'm a little buzz right now. I don't know if that came out right.
the
Doesn't
most
sound like it did,
No.
but I
mean,
think that's right.
I know where you were going
Yeah.
at least. So Lewis has only won as many as 11. I'm verifying that now.
Poor dude.
Michael, let's see. So Michael had 13 in 04.
How many have in 02?
Seb had 13 in 13. Max had 13 so far this year.
Man, Michael have in 02.
11. And Lewis had 11 in 2014, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So the most Lewis has hit is 11.
Come on, Lewis, step it up, bro. I mean, of all them years, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
You couldn't break through one time. Well, I know. What? Give me them years again that he did it.
He did. Hang on, let me scroll back down. 20. We get there. 2014, 18, 19, and 20.
Okay, well, we know why he didn't before. 14 was a dominant year for him, but the other reason would be because of Nico.
Yep.
18, 19, 20. I mean, that makes sense. Like, that was just completely dominant. But you had Ferrari was pretty good in 18 and 19.
Yeah.
Valtteri was going to steal some at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, look, there's also
it makes sense. Max was going to steal some at some point.
Yeah.
Throughout there, Ricardo took some.
So
yeah, that makes sense.
And there's a little bit you could argue that there wasn't as many races per season then, right? Like 2014 was only 19.
Even still, they were more than Schumacher.
Right. Well, that's where I was going with this. You know, you could argue that. Then there's a
16,
big
17 from back in those days.
Then there's a big but. A very large but.
Right.
2004, when Michael got 13, there was only 18
He won
races.
13 out of 18.
Yeah. And in 2002, when Michael achieved the same number that Lewis has, in 2002,
11.
there was 17. And Lewis in 14, there was 19. In what was it, 18, 19, 20?
Yep.
There was 21, 21, and 17.
Yeah.
Now, in 2020, he got 11 out of 17. So that's a pretty good ratio.
That was a COVID year.
It was.
That was a legit COVID year.
Yeah.
That was like the Lakers bubble win for the NBA. Like, it counts more so than the Lakers, I would say. But, jeez, that sounded like it left a dent. It counts more than the Lakers, but like that was just a weird year.
Yeah, it was.
You know,
it very much was.
So anyway,
all right,
give him the sign off quote again.
Checo. Support for that dude, man. It was unrivaled this past weekend.
Clearly.
Unrivaled.
For sure. Which I was 100% expecting Lewis to have more support than anybody. And in terms of apparel, I would say he did.
I think so. Yeah.
Which Mercedes, if you walk by the tents and shit, they got the most insane apparel.
Yeah.
It's so freaking good. It is so good.
Yes, they do.
They have everything.
The hats, the shirts.
The shirts,
like
the different style shirts.
Yep.
Like, it is sick. It is sick.
Yep.
So freaking good. Maybe that's why the majority of the chicks have it.
Could be.
because I would venture to say 70%.
I think 70 might be a bit hefty.
60. It was more than half.
I'd go half.
More than half.
I'd go half.
More than half of the women there had Mercedes stuff on. And I think it's because Mercedes has the dopest freaking apparel out of any of the teams. And it's not even close.
They do. Yep. No doubt. No doubt.
So,
all right. That's it.
It's a wrap.
Until we think of something else.
Cheers.
Wait,
we're going to close it out.
Hang on.
Yeah, refill it.
I need to refill it.
Nope, use the other one.
What other one? 12?
Yeah.
Is that what you got?
That's what I have, but I have way less of that.
I mean, fair enough. All right. Ain't got to tell me twice.
Yeah.
All right. Sign this one off. Cheers. Y'all have a good night. See y'all on the next one after Mexico.
Yep. We'll be back in normal and know everything that we're talking about.
Yep. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us on this one. Hope y'all had fun. I know we did.
Later.
See y'all.